Hello everyone, Prime here, and hope you've had a great day. Today we're going to be covering exactly who or what might God 95 be. See, if you go ahead and go over to Smite Data Mining, Hi-Res has changed things up a bit. Instead of giving us more of an exact version of what the next god or goddess will be, we don't have any spoilers, and instead we're just going to get potential ideas of what their kit might be. Or at least that's what the data miners can recover. They can't uncover anything more than that. After reading through the Smite Data Mining Reddit, someone I found mentioned the Baba Yaga as a potential candidate for the next god. And for those of you who don't know, the Baba Yaga was a witch in Slavic mythology. She was incredibly skinny, said to be in fact very comparable to a skeleton in that sense. She also had sisters who shared her name just to confuse people. And she also had an incredibly long nose that when she would go to sleep, it would touch the ceilings of the rooms in her house. At her very appearance, wild winds and forces of that nature would be summoned, trees would creak, and spirits might even appear. She travels around in a mortar. Now, as cool as that sounds, it's a mortar with a pestle, not a mortar that you might see in some sort of modernish day shooter, for instance. She also carries a broom to remove any and all traces of her presence. Now, as far as how I can link this to the data mining kit, well, the data miners seem to think that the new goddess or god will be a mage or a hunter, and this fits the Baba Yaga quite well, as of course mage archetype fits the witch aesthetic that she's going with very nicely. Now, moving on to this, she's got a lot of sort of explosion effects on her 1 through 3. And whilst, as I said, the mortar that she uses is not the explosive kind that you might find in wars, I'm sure Hi-Res might want to take a little bit of a play on this. Maybe, perhaps. She has a few ranged skills, and the most interesting thing about her kit is that her passive allows her to hide in some sort of wall, whether this be a wall that she creates, any player-made walls, or walls that exist in the map, or on the map rather. It's not too clear. Hence why we're speculating. In Smite right now, the only character that comes to mind that's able to manipulate walls is Giannis. We don't really have any characters that can sort of set traps on walls or blow holes in walls. You could argue that Giannis sort of does that, but then again, not really. It's more of placing a portal on it so you can like travel through the wall, sure, just as you would be able to if there was a wall in it, but it's not quite that. And the Baba Yaga hiding inside of a wall could be fairly lore accurate considering the fact that she uses her mortar and pestle to travel. She puts her entire body in the mortar and then uses the pestle to travel around, and as I said, she then has a broom to clear away any evidence that she was ever in the area that she traveled in. So whether they would actually take advantage of that aspect of her kit, not too sure. And as for her ult, they could be pretty creative with it. They could give it a knockoff witch spell that does a lot of damage. They could take advantage of the fact that when she appears, she has this fear presence about her, i.e. the wild winds, the fact that the trees creak, and it's something out of a horror movie. So they could do something like that with her ult, maybe giving her an aura that damages enemies quite a bit. Perhaps very similar to a moving Upwash ult with a smaller radius, let's say. So that's my first idea as to what this God 95 could be. Moving on to Celtic mythology, we have Bluehead. See, her story is fairly long, but to condense it down for you, Lou's mother cursed him. It was ultimately she cursed him in 3 different ways, and these were all to protect him, but the final one was being that he could not marry a mortal. Now, certain wizards or people with a certain affinity for magic took pity on him, and their names were Gwydion and Math. They created him a wife out of flowers. Undoubtedly, Luz and this woman made out of flowers called Bluehead fell in love with each other and got married. However, Lou got called away and had to visit one of his uncles, leaving his flowery wife alone in either a tower or their castle or house. Now, whilst Lou is out, a hunter, Piba, is a hunter who stumbles upon the castle, shall we say. Lou's wife allows this hunter to enter the castle. It doesn't take the two of them to eventually fall in love, and they have an affair. Then after this, they plot to dispose of Bluehead's former husband. she has Piba attempt to kill him, and Piba fires a spear straight towards Lu. It catches him in his side, and he instantly transforms into a bird. But unfortunately, because Lu is a bit of an immortal, he doesn't actually die, and as I said, he turns into a bird. So eventually, after living off of wild boars, he eventually is turned back into a human through magics. Then takes his revenge on his killer, killing his killer, and then turning his sights onto his former wife. Instead of outright just killing his flowery wife, what he does is he turns her into a towny owl, and this owl is feared by all other birds, i.e. she is forced to be lonely. Considering this fact, her hiding away in walls, be it that she could perhaps perch herself on the wall as an owl, or she's somehow neglected in her sort of flowery form as Btw I, could be an interesting way to go with it, I thought. So when she's not in combat, she has the ability to freely choose to enter a wall or exit a wall. When she enters combat, she might either be trapped into a wall, be booted out of that wall, or have some other interesting interaction with the wall, or a wall, be that a player-made wall, or just a physical wall already on the map. Not sure what Iris is going to do on that front. There's that. That's how I would justify the passive and the 3 being working. And then, of course, her being a mage or a hunter, of course, works out, because Hi-Rez could essentially give her any sort of other skills that would make sense for those classes, while still somewhat respecting her lore, perhaps. I don't know, giving her some sort of ranged flower, damaging skills, which she wasn't said to have, but it's Hi-Rez, they'd probably do something like that. Her ultimate, honestly, I don't know. Perhaps they could do something along the lines of playing off of her beauty because she was made purely out of flowers, so it could be some sort of infatuation ult, or something along the lines of a mass CC, something of that description. But yes, that's my second choice. And also it's partially because the Celtic gods, like the Japanese gods, they were introduced and they really didn't have that many characters within their roster. So they were kind of pushed to the sidelines by Hi-Rez a bit, so they could really use some reinforcements in that sense. The third set of deities, I want to make a bit of a generalization and talk about death gods and Chinese as well as Japanese ghostly deities or figures of that sort. See, when it comes to death gods that could potentially be in Smite as well as sort of ghostly figures, it's easily to sort of justify a kit like this with a ghostly figure. You give it ranged basics, you make it either a mage or a hunter, as we said, and because ghosts typically are intangible and have the ability to travel between walls, a bit like what happens to Osiris when he gets his complete passive activated. If you put up, say, a Ymir wall, Krabrakan wall, Odin wall, he can just walk right through that. Except this character would probably also be able to walk through normal walls as well if they activate a skill, maybe depending on the whole thing with their 1, being that the 1 has a bonus effect if you land more of its hits. So maybe if you hit all 3 hits on the 1, the character can then travel through a wall. And of course, this could be perfect for a lot of the ghosts in Chinese mythology. There are several ghosts in Chinese mythology, a lot more for Chinese mythology than a lot of other mythologies and Japanese mythology, I think. Some common examples of these Chinese spirits include the Yuangui, which is a spirit of vengeance that roams the world depressed, wanting only for their grievances to be addressed, i.e., these spirits usually died in some sort of wrongful or unfair way, and they only want justice to be served, essentially. Some of them may even contact people in the real world and have them solve the mystery of whatever wrongdoing went about. Actually, a spirit like that could actually survive or have a real sort of focus around walls and perhaps even being a sort of support mage in that could be quite interesting to see. Though I'm not sure if it's technically a god. It doesn't seem like it would necessarily be a god, which of course isn't a problem because we've got characters like the newly released Achilles, Medusa, Guan Yu, just to name a few, who either weren't gods completely, they were demigods, or they weren't gods all throughout of their story. At some point they were mortals. You see where I'm going with this. Another example is Igui, and these were ghosts who were cursed with eternal unhappiness due to the fact that they were constantly hungry. They had tiny mouths which they used to eat, and rather round but small figures. And they'd eat literally anything. They were essentially scavengers like vultures, jackals, so on and so forth. They would even eat feces if it came to it, but had the ability to spew fire. So it's not like you'd necessarily want to mess with them, and that would definitely cover the whole mage slot down. So there you go. As for the whole gods of the underworld thing, I'm not going to list a specific god of the underworld. I did look through and see if I could find out anything about some Mesopotamian gods of the underworld, or Celtic gods of the underworld. Then I figured I could just generalize it. A kit like this, with the brief outline that we've been given, could really work for a shadowy figure that works with sort of themes of undying and sort of death, darkness, that sort of tone in their kit. Yeah, I definitely think Hyros could merge a death god in here. Though starting off a pantheon with a death god probably isn't the most pleasant thing in the world, but then again, if it's a voodoo god, well, I suppose I don't really mind. That's been the video, and I'm going to try something out here that I don't usually do. I'm going to open up a poll here, but not the usual poll to see what video would be next. No, in this poll you guys can vote to see which idea you think was probably the best, or if there was no good idea, I'll leave an option for you to just say, yes, I had no good idea in this video. But please feel free to then go ahead and comment in the comment section below and vote in the polls saying which ideas you think were good. If none of them were good, please go ahead and leave your own personal thoughts and speculations. That's the beauty of this type of video. Bunch of ideas can be expressed all in one place. That sounded cringy as all hell, I'm probably never going to say that again, but if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like. If you didn't, go ahead and, well, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this if you enjoyed, and until the next video, have a very good day. I have been Prime. Perhaps I'll leave links to the Reddit post, perhaps not, let's see if I remember, and until the next video, have a very good day. I have been Prime, and I'll see you in a few. Bye bye.